Single dad Jake texted the wrong number asking for emergency childcare for his sick twins. The billionaire who received it went pale, sent a limo and said 4 words that shattered his world. "I'm their biological mother. 5 years ago she'd given away the baby she thought she'd never see again." Before watching full story, comment below from where you watching. Also like and subscribe for more stories. Jake Morrison was having the worst day of his life when he sent the text message that would change everything. His 5-year-old twins Lily and Lucas had both come down with the flu, his babysitter had quit without notice, and his boss was threatening to fire him if he missed another day of work. As a single father working 2 jobs, morning shift at a construction site and evening shift at a restaurant, Jake was barely keeping his head above water. The small apartment he shared with his twins was cramped, the bills were piling up, and he hadn't had a full night's sleep in months. "Daddy, I don't feel good," Lily whimpered from the couch where both children were wrapped in blankets watching cartoons with fevered eyes. "I know, sweetheart," Jake said, checking her temperature again. "Still 102 degrees. Daddy needs to find someone to watch you today." Jake scrolled through his phone, desperately looking for anyone who could help. His sister lived 3 states away, his parents had passed away years ago, and most of his friends had their own families to worry about. Finally, he found the number for Sarah, a woman from the local moms group who had offered to help with babysitting emergencies. He quickly typed a message. "Hi Sarah, this is Jake Morrison. My twins are sick and I desperately need someone to watch them today. I can pay $100 for 8 hours. Please let me know if you can help. I'm really struggling here and could lose my job. Thank you." He hit send and immediately felt a wave of relief. Sarah was reliable and good with kids. Surely she would understand his situation. What Jake didn't realize was that in his panic, he had mistyped 1 digit in Sarah's phone number. Instead of texting Sarah from the moms group, he had accidentally sent his desperate message to someone else entirely. 300 miles away in the penthouse office of Morrison Industries, ironically sharing Jake's last name, billionaire businesswoman Victoria Morrison was reviewing quarterly reports when her phone buzzed with an incoming text from an unknown number. Victoria, at 34, was one of the youngest female billionaires in the country. She had built her technology empire from nothing, working 16-hour days and sacrificing everything for success. She lived alone in a massive penthouse, had no close friends and hadn't spoken to her own family in years. When she read Jake's message, something inside her chest tightened. The desperation in his words reminded her of her own childhood, when her single mother had struggled to raise her while working multiple jobs. But it was one particular phrase that made Victoria's blood run cold. "My twins are sick." Victoria stared at the message for a full minute, her hands shaking slightly. Twins. The word brought back memories she had spent years trying to forget. 5.5 years ago, Victoria had been in a brief relationship with a construction worker named Jake. It had lasted only 3 months, but it had been the happiest 3 months of her life. Jake had been kind, funny, and completely unimpressed by her wealth. He had loved her for who she was, not what she owned. But Victoria had been terrified of getting serious. She had built walls around her heart to protect herself from the pain of abandonment she had felt when her father left. When Jake started talking about a future together, Victoria panicked and broke up with him without explanation. 2 weeks later, she discovered she was pregnant. Victoria had tried to find Jake to tell him about the pregnancy, but he had moved and changed his phone number. She hired private investigators, but they came up empty. Jake Morrison was a common name, and the man she had loved seemed to have vanished. Alone and scared, Victoria had made the hardest decision of her life. She couldn't raise children while building her company, and she couldn't bear the thought of being a single mother like her own had been. She gave birth to twins, a boy and a girl, and made arrangements for a private adoption through a lawyer who promised the children would go to a loving family. She never got to hold them. She never even saw their faces. The lawyer had assured her it was better that way. For 5 years, Victoria had tried to forget about the children she had given away. She threw herself into work, built her fortune, and convinced herself she had made the right choice. But not a day went by that she didn't wonder about her twins, didn't imagine what they looked like, what their voices sounded like, whether they were happy. Now, staring at this text from someone named Jake Morrison talking about sick twins, Victoria felt like the universe was playing a cruel joke on her. She quickly typed back, "Who is this? How did you get this number?" On the other side of the city, Jake's phone buzzed with the response. He was confused by the question but desperate enough to answer honestly. "This is Jake Morrison. I got your number from the community bulletin board at Sunny Days Preschool. Sarah said I could text her for babysitting emergencies. Are you available to help today?" Victoria's heart stopped. Sunny Days Preschool. She knew that name. It was the preschool she had been secretly donating to for years, the one where the lawyer had told her the adoptive family might send her children. With trembling fingers, Victoria typed, "What are your twins' names and ages?" Jake was getting annoyed now. This didn't seem like the Sarah he had met, who was warm and immediately helpful. But he was desperate. Lily and Lucas Morrison, both 5 years old. "Look, if you can't help, just say so. I really need to find someone today." Victoria dropped her phone. Lily and Lucas. The names she had whispered to herself in the hospital before they took her babies away. The names she had chosen but never been able to use. She grabbed her phone again and called her assistant. "Cancel all my meetings today. I need my car and driver immediately." "Ma'am, you have the board meeting at?" "Cancel everything," Victoria said firmly. "And send the limo instead of my regular car." 30 minutes later, Jake was changing Lily's fever medicine when he heard what sounded like a small parade outside his apartment building. He looked out the window and nearly fell over. A sleek black limousine was parked outside his rundown building, looking completely out of place among the old cars and garbage cans. A uniformed driver was walking toward his building. Jake's phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello," he answered cautiously. "Is this Jake Morrison?" The voice was female, sophisticated, and somehow familiar. "Yes, who is this?" "My name is Victoria Morrison. I received your text message about babysitting. I'm outside your building. We need to talk." "Outside my building? How do you?" "Please come downstairs, Jake. Bring the children. We need to talk about the twins." Something in her voice made Jake's stomach drop. "I don't understand. Who are you?" There was a long pause. "I think I'm their mother." Jake's phone slipped from his hand. He stood frozen in his apartment, his mind racing. This had to be some kind of mistake. Some elaborate scam. But the woman knew his name, knew about the twins, knew where he lived. "Daddy?" Lily called from the couch. Who was on the phone? Jake picked up his phone with shaking hands. "I'll be right down," he managed to say. He wrapped both twins in blankets and carried them downstairs. Despite their fever, they were curious about the adventure. "Daddy, why is there a big fancy car outside?" Lucas asked weakly. "I don't know, buddy," Jake said honestly. The limousine driver opened the door as they approached. Inside, Jake saw a woman who took his breath away. She was beautiful, elegant, and expensively dressed, but her eyes were red with tears. "Hello, Jake," Victoria said softly. Jake stared at her. "Do I know you?" "You did once. 5.5 years ago. We met at a coffee shop near the construction site where you worked. You spilled coffee on my white suit." The memory hit Jake like a truck. "Vicky? Victoria Chin? It's Morrison now. I took my mother's maiden name for business." Jake's mind was spinning. This elegant billionaire, because he could tell by the car and clothes that she was wealthy, was the same woman who had broken his heart 5 years ago? The woman who had disappeared from his life without explanation? "I don't understand," Jake said. "What does this have to do with my children?" Victoria's eyes filled with tears as she looked at Lily and Lucas. They had her dark hair and Jake's green eyes. They were beautiful, and they looked exactly as she had imagined they would. "Jake," she said gently, "I need to tell you something that's going to be very difficult to hear." Over the next hour, sitting in the back of the limousine while Lily and Lucas dozed against Jake's shoulders, Victoria told him everything. About the pregnancy she had hidden from him. About her unsuccessful attempts to find him. About the private adoption she had arranged. "You gave away our children?" Jake asked, his voice barely a whisper. "I thought I was doing the right thing," Victoria said, tears streaming down her face. "I was scared and alone, and I thought they deserved a better life than I could give them. But they ended up with me anyway," Jake said, the irony not lost on him. Victoria nodded. "The lawyer must have falsified the adoption records. Instead of going to the family I had chosen, they somehow ended up back with their biological father." Jake looked down at his sleeping children. "I've raised them for 5 years. I've been their dad since they were infants. They don't even know they're adopted." "I know," Victoria said. "And you've done an amazing job. They're beautiful, Jake. They're perfect. What do you want?" Jake asked bluntly. "Are you here to take them away from me?" Victoria was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know," she said honestly. "I never expected to find them. I certainly never expected to find you raising them alone." She looked at Jake, really looked at him. He was older now, more tired, with lines around his eyes that spoke of years of hard work and sacrifice. But he was still the same kind, genuine man she had fallen in love with years ago. Tell me about their lives, Victoria said softly. Tell me everything. For the next 2 hours, Jake shared stories about the twins. How Lucas had said his first word at 10 months, Dada. How Lily had learned to ride a bike at 4, how they both loved dinosaurs and ice cream and bedtime stories. He told Victoria about their struggles too, the nights when he couldn't afford groceries, the times when he had to choose between electricity and rent, the constant worry about providing for them. You've been doing this alone all this time? Victoria asked. We're a team, Jake said, gently stroking Lily's hair. The 3 of us against the world. Victoria felt her heart breaking and healing at the same time. She had missed so much. First steps, first words, birthdays, Christmas mornings. But she could see that Jake had given the children something she never could have: unconditional love and stability. I want to help, Victoria said finally. Help how? Financially first. You shouldn't have to work 2 jobs just to keep your heads above water. Let me set up college funds for them, pay off your debts, get you a better apartment. Jake's pride flared. I don't want your charity. It's not charity, Victoria said firmly. They're my children too. I owe you 5 years of child support. Jake was quiet, considering. He thought about the stack of unpaid bills on his kitchen table, about the constant stress of never having enough money, about the dreams he had for his children that he couldn't afford to give them. What else? He asked. I want to be part of their lives, Victoria said. If you'll let me. I want to get to know them. I want them to know they have a mother who loves them, even if she made a terrible mistake. They think their mother died in childbirth, Jake said. That's what the adoption agency told me. Then we'll tell them the truth when they're ready to understand it. Over the following weeks, Victoria slowly became part of their lives. She started by helping with practical things, paying for the best doctors when the twins were sick, enrolling them in a better preschool, moving Jake and the children to a beautiful house in a safe neighborhood. Jake was initially resistant to accepting so much help, but Victoria was patient and persistent. This isn't about you and me, she would say. This is about giving Lily and Lucas the best possible life. The twins were initially shy around Victoria, but she won them over gradually. She learned that Lily loved art and bought her the finest art supplies. She discovered that Lucas was fascinated by how things worked and brought him age-appropriate science kits. Why does the nice lady come to visit us so much? Lily asked Jake one evening after Victoria had left. Jake and Victoria had agreed to wait until the children were older before revealing the full truth about their relationship. For now, Victoria was just Daddy's friend who likes to help. Because she cares about you, Jake said honestly. And because she and Daddy are old friends. As the months passed, Jake found himself falling in love with Victoria all over again. She was different now, more mature, more grounded, but she still had the same spark that had attracted him years ago. More importantly, she was completely devoted to the twins. Victoria, meanwhile, was discovering joys she had never imagined. Teaching Lily to braid her hair. Reading bedtime stories to Lucas. Attending preschool plays and birthday parties. For the first time in her adult life, she felt like she was part of a real family. The turning point came on Christmas morning. Victoria had spent Christmas Eve with them, helping Jake assemble presents and prepare for the morning. When the twins woke up and ran to the tree, they automatically included Victoria in their excitement. Victoria! Victoria! Look what Santa brought, they shouted, pulling her toward the pile of presents. As they all sat on the floor surrounded by wrapping paper and toys, Lily climbed into Victoria's lap and Lucas leaned against Jake. For a moment they looked like any normal family on Christmas morning. This is what I always wanted, Victoria whispered to Jake. I just didn't know it. That evening, after the children had gone to bed, Jake and Victoria sat by the fireplace talking. I need to tell you something, Jake said. I never stopped loving you. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. I never stopped loving you either. That's why I ran away. I was terrified of how much I needed you. And now I know that needing someone isn't weakness. It's what makes us human. They were married 6 months later in a small ceremony in their backyard, with Lily as flower girl and Lucas as ring bearer. The twins were thrilled to have Victoria officially become their family, though they still didn't know the full story of her relationship to them. Victoria legally adopted the children, giving them both her name and Jake's. She also insisted that Jake take over as CEO of Morrison Industries Charitable Foundation, a role that used his natural compassion and allowed him to help other struggling families. 3 years after that fateful wrong text message, the Morrison family was featured on the cover of Business Weekly magazine. The article was titled, "The Billionaire Who Found Everything She Didn't Know She Was Looking For." In the interview, Victoria talked about how becoming a mother had changed her priorities completely. "I used to think success meant having the biggest office and the most money," she said. "Now I know that success means being there when your daughter loses her first tooth, or when your son learns to ride a bike. It means family dinners and bedtime stories and all the little moments that make life beautiful." Jake, meanwhile, had started a non-profit organization that helped single parents find affordable childcare and career training. His own experience had taught him how difficult it could be to raise children alone, and he was passionate about making it easier for others. "The best things in life often come from the biggest mistakes," he said in his own interview. "If I hadn't sent that text to the wrong number, I might never have found my family again." The twins, now 8 years old, were thriving. Lily had inherited Victoria's head for business and was already talking about starting her own company someday. Lucas had Jake's generous heart and wanted to become a doctor to help sick children. They still didn't know the full truth about Victoria being their biological mother, but Jake and Victoria planned to tell them when they were old enough to understand the complicated circumstances of their early years. For now, it was enough that they were a family. It was enough that they had found each other again, despite all the mistakes and missed opportunities and wrong turns that had kept them apart. On quiet evenings, when the children were asleep and Jake and Victoria sat together on their back porch, they would sometimes talk about the miracle of that wrong text message. "Do you think it was really a mistake?" Victoria would ask. "Or do you think the universe was trying to bring us back together? Does it matter?" Jake would reply, "We're here now. We're together. That's all that counts." And as they watched the stars appear in the darkening sky, both of them knew that sometimes the best destinations are the ones you never planned to reach. Sometimes getting lost is exactly how you find your way home. The text message that started it all was framed and hung in their hallway, a reminder that love has a way of finding you, even when you're not looking for it. Even when you think you've lost everything. Even when you're just a struggling single dad who typed the wrong number at exactly the right moment. Years later, when Lily and Lucas were old enough to hear the whole story, they would laugh about the cosmic coincidence that brought their family together. But Jake and Victoria would always know the truth, that it wasn't coincidence at all. It was love, patient and persistent, waiting for the perfect moment to heal what had been broken and make them whole again. The wrong text message had become the right beginning to the rest of their lives.